Before we begin today's episode, I have an exciting new opportunity for all of you guys. We have started a Patreon group where we are looking for personal trainers, fitness coaches, gym owners. Get exclusive content, access to me, get access to Redefined Fitness, see the ins and outs of how to become the best trainer, the best gym owner that you can be. Check out the link in the description, and I hope to see all of you soon. Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn how to overcome adversity, to pick the fact versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get your life fueled up. I just made that up off the top of my head, but I'm really excited to welcome to the show someone who I just found out was in the NFL, so I'm really excited, but then an avid Jet fan here. But he's got way more to talk about and things that we hear about kind of in the news, but we really don't understand it. What does it mean when something's organically sourced? What does it mean it's fake and it's all blood chemicals? What's the difference when we put it into our bodies? So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Chris. Chris, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Anthony. It's so good to be here and excited to be on the show today.
I hope you liked my intro to
That was great. Yeah, it was awesome. A lot of energy behind it. It was great. Might have to steal the tagline.
Yeah, go for it, man. All yours.
Yeah.
So before we really talk about anything, I mentioned briefly you were in the NFL, but it's not my story. It's your story. So tell us how you got into this industry from that kind of background.
Yeah, so I think as an athlete, I always took a vested interest in health and fitness. Obviously, it was my job for a period of time as a professional athlete. And once you get that level, and even at the collegiate level, you're always looking for the competitive edge, right? So you're looking at ways to optimize your training, optimize your diet, optimize nutrition, just make you the best that you can possibly be. And so it's really during that time where I started to see firsthand with some of the guys who went on to be future Hall of Famers, Pro Bowlers, how seriously they took nutrition, and that really opened my eyes to the benefit of taking it seriously. But it was really post-football career where I started working in the industry itself for a bariatric nutrition company that opened my eyes to a lot of the nutritional deficiencies that not just that patient population suffers from, but the majority of Americans, and why that is. And so that's really what laid the foundation for me to kind of take this route to create a different and new way of approaching nutrition that was counter to what I had always, came to understand and had used predominantly as an athlete, which was whey protein and a bunch of, synthetic supplements, thinking that that was going to, fuel my body the best. And what I've learned is that there's a much better way to fuel your body, and it starts with real whole plant-based foods.
I mean, not that I'm a fan of the guy because, like I said, Jet fan, but Tom Brady has been saying this for years, and he is retiring again. But this isn't a football podcast. But anyway, point being, he really took nutrition to a whole nother level, and then it showed on the field how he was very stringent about what he put in his body, the types of foods, making sure it came from a whole plant-based approach. Is that somebody you kind of looked up to with this growing up? Like, how did that play along?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Tom has done is, it's pretty incredible, right? And it's a testament to, everything that he's done off the field as well to keep his body in peak shape and continue to perform at a high level for as long as he has. And that's something that I've seen with other guys in the league too. Tony Gonzalez was a guy who was in Kansas City when I was there. And he had like his own menu, his own dietitian that he was working with. It was mostly, plant-based foods. And I thought it was just so different than what I was always used to, which was like, protein, as much animal source protein as possible. And so, there's definitely, it's more common, I think, now than it was when I was playing, that people are receptive to it, and the science has really come around to support it, both in terms of performance recovery, but also, longevity, which is probably most applicable for people who aren't professional athletes, right? And just how much more value you get from real whole foods than you do from just isolated nutrients.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. We did a huge episode on protein. We did another one on different types of amino acids and stuff like that. So I highly suggest you guys go check those out. But taking something from a whole food source makes it more easily digestible into your body and more usable, because our bodies have the bacteria enzymes to recognize those kinds of foods and then use those nutrients better. Is just a simpler way of explaining it. But I think a great example is vitamin D. I think everyone knows what vitamin D is. You have different types of vitamin D. For example, vitamin D3 is the vitamin D you're going to absorb from the sun. Going outside for 20 minutes, you're going to get a substantial amount of vitamin D, because the body knows how to use that for the good of the body. Whereas taking something, maybe vitamin D1, is not as easily absorbed, and a lot of it's just going to go to waste. If that helps make any sense. But I want to ask, like, more specifically, right? You figured out, you're in the NFL, you're hearing all these people talk about these plant-based approaches, you're coming out of it, and you said, I remember you were talking a little pre-show, you said you went to Cornell, you went to a bunch of different schools to really learn more about this industry. When did the idea of LYFE Fuel really come to be?
Okay, so the idea for LYFE Fuel was probably when I was about 4 or 5 years into my career at Metagenics. That was the company that had acquired Bariatric Advantage, which was the market leader in the bariatric nutrition space, and really the first of its kind in that space. We were working hand in hand with a lot of the key bariatric surgeons around the country, and really became a critical part of the practice and the patient's success. And it was during that time where I really started out my education about why these nutritional deficiencies occurred. Obviously, in that patient population, you're radically changing anatomy, you're reducing food portions, and so there's a lot of different things involved. However, when you look at the general population, you see a lot of the same deficiencies. You see, I think vitamin D deficiency, really insufficiency at 80, 90 plus, right? Magnesium, another one, zinc, iodine, right? And so that kind of really inspired and provoked me to look further into why this was occurring. And if you look at um, the way that our food has changed so dramatically over the past couple of decades, it's no wonder why this is starting to happen, right? Like, we're so disconnected from where our food comes from, and the soil in which it's grown, if it's even grown in soil in the first place, is largely decreased in those essential vitamins and minerals. So we're not getting the same amount. I think it's in a lot of best fruits and vegetables have decreased by up to like 30% in their nutritional quantity over the past few decades. So
Can you
eating
repeat
the
that one
same,
more time? Sorry, that was.
yeah, it's up to, I think, 30, depending on which crop we're talking about. But there's key vitamin or key vegetables and fruits that we eat, and that have decreased their nutritional value by up to 30% just in the last few decades alone, right? So that's pretty significant, because if you don't change the input, right, if you're gonna, if you're still eating an apple today, an apple 50 years, you're getting more from the apple 50 years ago than you are today, right? So you might have to eat 3 apples to get the same amount of nutrients from it. So that's why you know it's almost impossible in a modern the way the modern society to get everything you need from food alone. And that's why we started LYFE Fuel, to complement a whole food plant-based diet. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to go vegan or anything, but it's helping you to reduce your consumption of animal products, but also ensure that you provide your body with all the essential vitamins and minerals, phytonutrients you need to look, feel, and perform your best. So that's really kind of what laid the foundation for LYFE Fuel, is that there was a bigger market to address beyond just obesity and bariatrics, but the general population could benefit from this combination of ingredients as well.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it's something with the NFL. And mentioned the word phytonutrients. We had Alan Campbell on the show. He was drilling into about how important it is to really get phytonutrients, and he was pushing the same thing you were. So I'm gonna listen to anyone, guys. Listen to the ones that need to perform at their best on the flip of a dime. So I definitely agree with you on that aspect. And a couple of things you mentioned, I just want to give a little word for reference for people listening. So if you were to pick a fruit. I don't care. Depending on your region, you can grow different fruits, whatever it is. I live up in New York. You can go grow apples here and then go buy an apple from a grocery store. And anyone on Long Island can tell you the apple you're growing here tastes 300 times better than the one you're getting from the grocery store.
Absolutely.
It's out of this world, the difference in just taste alone, yet alone the nutritional value of the products. An apple isn't an apple anymore, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, and it's pretty crazy to think about, right? Because I think it's the mentality of having to have everything on demand, right? We no longer eat with the seasons. We ship apples in the middle of winter from New Zealand when it's summer, right? And so the environmental impact of that, and then the personal health impact is we're seeing the long-term effects of that. And you're right, it doesn't taste. You eat a tomato here in Italy versus one that's in our supermarket shelf. It's radically different in both in terms of taste and nutrient value. And so I think the closer we can get back to where our food's coming from, start to relocalize that, is probably one of the most important things we can do during our time, because the system that we have right now is relatively broken, both from a planetary and a personal health standpoint.
I couldn't agree more. And I really want to get into the difference between something grown organically and something made synthetically in a lab. But first, just a quick word from our sponsor, guys, and we'll be right back. Thank you to our sponsor, Hydronique Hydration Electrolyte Powder Drink Packets. Started in the midst of the pandemic, the founder of Hydronique Hydration, a frontline healthcare worker, started developing constant headaches. A landmark research study published early during the pandemic showed that 81% of frontline healthcare workers developed new headaches, mainly because of their PPE, which prevented them from eating and drinking properly while on the job. He would leave work tired, dehydrated, and burnt out. The founder looked for a healthy drink with all the necessary vitamins and minerals, but with no sugar. But most powdered drinks in the market have a ton of sugar and caffeine. That's why he created Hydronique Hydration, sugar-free, plant-based, antioxidant-rich electrolyte powder packets for daily use, containing all essential vitamins and minerals with a refreshing taste. Their product contains elderberry, which is known to have immune-boosting properties, especially during the cold and flu season. Hydronique Hydration electrolyte powders can also fit in your bag or suitcase when traveling and are super convenient just to carry around and have with you day to day. So if you're having trouble with eating and drinking healthy during your busy day and want a great alternative to other high sugar hydration companies, then give Hydronique Hydration a try. There are 30 of these great electrolyte powder packets in a pouch, perfect for a 1 month supply. You can visit www.hydroniquehydration.com. That's www.hydronique hydration.com. It's the word hydration and unique mashed together. Or search Hydronique Hydration on Amazon, where they're offering a $10 discount coupon at checkout. Anyway, guys, links in the bio. Please go check them out. Thank you again to our sponsor, Hydronique Hydration. I drink these packets almost every single day. They also have a ton of great vitamins and nutrients in them, including vitamin C, the elderberry mentioned, magnesium, and zinc. So even if you have a little night out with too many drinks, or you had a really good workout, because I hope that's the reason, grab one of these packets today, pick it up. Now back to the show. Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. We're going to break down with Chris a little more about the differences between things that are grown organically as opposed to synthetically in a lab. And this is something that you hear about all the time, but you really don't know what synthetically in a lab really means. Most people just imagine, at least if you're like me, a scientist with goggles putting some chemicals together, and voila, you have some grand meal in front of you. But that's definitely not the case. So this is your field, man. Tell us a little bit about what it means to have things made synthetically in a lab.
So to make something synthetically is you're trying to make something bioidentical to what occurs in nature, right? So you're looking at, vitamin D, let's say, and say, okay, how do we, recompose vitamin D so the body recognizes it as such? Whereas, a natural whole food approach to nutrition will take a mushroom or an orange or something, and then say, okay, that is the material, that is our starting material, and then we're using that in its full composition. And so you're getting some other trace minerals, phytonutrients, as we spoke about earlier. So you're retaining that entire source of food versus an isolated nutrient. And I think a good kind of aha moment is if you ever take, like, let's say B vitamins or something, and you've got like that neon yellow pee afterward, your body like
It
telling you
smells so
that,
bad.
yeah, and it's your body saying, okay, I didn't actually know what to do with any of those like B vitamins that you just gave me, right? Because there's a lot of independent, like isolated nutrients. But if you were to eat, you know, let's say an orange or even like a highly concentrated form of whole food vitamin B, you're not going to have the same effect. So your body, there's all these enzymatic and metabolic processes in the body that are involved when breaking down real whole foods that aren't necessarily in play when you're dealing with isolated uh, nutrients. And then I think where those nutrients come from is the biggest thing that I think people can wake up to, right? So a lot of times the synthetic nutrients are made from petroleum-based sources, right? Versus
Explain that. What does that mean, petroleum-based sources? They're taking gasoline and they're like, all right, let's figure out a way to convert this into some kind of vitamin.
yeah, there's a lot of things that are unknown that kind of go get passed through the mainstream without any a lot of attention to them, like BCAAs. If they're not vegan BCAAs, which go through a fermentation process, a lot of times they're extracted or fermented from like sheep's wool or duck feathers or human hair. So there's a lot of strange things that go on behind the scenes in the supplement industry. But going back to like petroleum based nutrients, yeah, they're chemical based chemical based solvents that are combined or created in a lab to try to equate to these vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, something that just kind of dawns on me when it comes to the supplement industry, and I know you can, since you have a product that's categorized in this, can really explain further. Supplements here in the States, at least, aren't regulated. So any Joe Schmo can come out and say, this is a supplement. It helps with ABCD, and you just have to believe me, go buy my product on the shelf. I'm not going to say the name of the product on the show, but I will say, as a gym owner, I sell a bunch of pre-workouts. And we closed during COVID for a year, so a lot of my products went and expired. So before I went and reopened, I had to clean out all my shelves. What I noticed is one of these products melted the bottom of an aluminum can after it
Oh my
expired
gosh.
and went
That's
all over
insane.
the fridge. 2 cans of this same product melted the entirety. And this was the biggest, like, oh, wow factor. If that's melting aluminum, what's it doing to our insides? And how can this possibly be good for you?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking and frustrating, to be honest with you. And it's crazy to think about what we've let pass, not just as supplements, but really as food these days, right? And the food industry is no better, right? Like, look at how many ingredients go into making a Big Mac or Coca-Cola, right? Which you can use for like pipe cleaner, right? It's just, and this is stuff that most of us are putting on our bodies on a daily basis without thinking twice, right? And having spent a lot of time outside of the United States and having the opportunity to kind of really immerse myself in other cultures around the world and really live in other places. There's a lot of stuff that just would never pass through the regulatory processes, outside the U.S. So there should be more of a regulatory system and more definition around a lot of these terms, like just natural, for instance, like doesn't really mean anything when it gets into like food and nutrition supplements. Natural, means basically nothing. It means that it started potentially from a natural source, but there's a lot of different solvents and chemicals and stuff that can be added to it at the end of the day, right? And it's really doing the end consumer a disservice because we're so confused and misled as to thinking stuff is healthy when it's not something that you would ever equate with something that you would want to put in your body. So our approach is trying to get back to just real whole foods. I think it's a more intuitive approach. It's pretty much the approach that we've used since the dawn of time, but got so far away from just over the past few decades, right? If you think about it, like the whole supplement industry didn't exist 80 years ago, whenever it was the origins began. And so we had to live off just real whole foods, right? So how do you do that in a way that is still convenient, that meets the demands of a busy on-the-go lifestyle, without making all those compromises in the ingredients? And that's really what we're trying to do at LYFE FUEL.
Yeah, I love that you're really guys are branching out. Before we really get into the nitty gritty of LYFE FUEL, I just have one more question. Another one I hope you can bring a little light into it. What actually does organic mean?
So it's challenging, right? So I think the definition of organic, there's certain requires, and there's different, I guess, regulatory bodies of what organics are, right? So organics doesn't mean necessarily that they're pesticide free. That's probably a better criteria to look at if you're trying to reduce your intake of chemicals, would be something that's spray free or pesticide free, especially when you get into like leafy greens or berries or something. Organic, obviously you have to pay for that certification. It's not always feasible for like small scale farmers to do that, but small scale smart farmers might have better processes in place. So with organics, you can actually use like organic sprays and other organic methodologies to get that criteria. The idea behind organic is that we're lessening our exposure to a lot of these harmful chemicals, but it's not by any stretch of the imagination an elimination of that exposure. Yes, you in theory are getting, I guess, better stuff sprayed on your crops, right? But I think unless you're growing all your own food, like there's still a lot of mystery into how, I guess, good those organic materials are for you, and if they're worth the cost a lot of times. And I think it really gets into, what food we're talking about, right? And how maybe some of those sprays and different things are used actually pass through to the food itself, right? So there's definitely a short list of stuff that's probably worth paying for organic purposes if you have the budget to do it. And there's probably other stuff that might be equally as good as conventional. So I know it's not the most straightforward answer, and it is confusing, but that's the challenge, I think, with our food system, is it's almost like it's designed intentionally to be confusing and misleading. So
I guess a great example is at least something that I've always taught and learned, and to a degree, if you take a banana and let's say any kind of berry, right? To me, there's no sense in buying a banana that's organic, because who cares if they're spraying the outside of banana? That peel is so thick, it's most likely not getting through to the fruit. Unlike a berry, where it's just absorbing everything, and then you're going to have a lot of issues. I think actually even an easier example is lettuce. Lettuce is one of the most absorbent vegetables out there. It just takes everything and just absorbs it in, which is why you always have E. coli breakouts through lettuce, because it's all just sitting in the plant and just absorbing all that water and all the other bacteria that comes with it. Is that necessarily true? Am I far off on this? What do you think?
No, I think you're pretty accurate, and I think it really depends, right? Based off the infrastructure of the farm, where it's coming from, right? So if it's monocrop agriculture, I think whether it's organics or not, you're going to run into some problems, right? So you can have organic farm right next to conventional farm. The winds can carry spray from one to another. They've got shared groundwater and other potential cross contamination there. So there's no real perfect solution. That's why I think the future is regenerative agriculture, permaculture, some of these things that have bring the ecosystem back into the environment as it was designed, as opposed to kind of these monocrop agricultural systems that, yes, on paper it might look better, but like when you get into the nitty gritty of it, it's still not, I guess, fixing the problem that we're in for health and, again, the planet. So
Yeah, definitely agree. But let's talk a little more about your product and LYFE Fuel, and what do you think is your direction for the company? How would somebody listening to the show benefit from using it in their day-to-day life? Take it away, Chris.
yeah, so at LYFE Fuel, we're about 7 years into this journey. We've evolved the business a ton, and really, thanks.
Thank you to our sponsor, Hydronique Hydration Electrolyte Powder Drink Packets. Started in the midst of the pandemic, the founder of Hydronique Hydration, a frontline healthcare worker, started developing constant headaches. A landmark research study published early during the pandemic showed that 81% of frontline healthcare workers developed new headaches, mainly because of their PPE, which prevented them from eating and drinking properly while on the job. He would leave work tired, dehydrated, and burnt out. The founder looked for a healthy drink with all the necessary vitamins and minerals, but with no sugar. But most powdered drinks in the market have a ton of sugar and caffeine. That's why he created Hydronique Hydration, sugar-free, plant-based, antioxidant-rich electrolyte powder packets for daily use, containing all essential vitamins and minerals with a refreshing taste. Their product contains elderberry, which is known to have immune boosting properties, especially during the cold and flu season. Hydronic Hydration electrolyte powders can also fit in your bag or suitcase when traveling and are super convenient just to carry around and have with you day to day. So if you're having trouble with eating and drinking healthy during your busy day and want a great alternative to other high sugar hydration companies, then give Hydronique Hydration a try. There are 30 of these great electrolyte powder packets in a pouch, perfect for a 1 month supply. You can visit www.hydroniquehydration.com. That's www.hydronique hydration.com. It's the word hydration and unique mashed together. Or search Hydronique Hydration on Amazon, where they're offering a $10 discount coupon at checkout. Anyway, guys, links in the bio. Please go check them out. Thank you again to our sponsor, Hydronique Hydration. I drink these packets almost every single day. They also have a ton of great vitamins and nutrients in them, including vitamin C, the elderberry mentioned, magnesium, and zinc. So even if you have a little night out with too many drinks, or you had a really good workout, because I hope that's the reason, grab one of these packets today, pick it up. Now back to the show.
To the feedback of our customers, have been able to make significant improvements to the product formulations, and really kind of stay at the cutting edge of innovation and using a food first approach. And I think that's something that's pretty unique to LYFE Fuel. I hope you start to see more of it in the marketplace, even though it makes things maybe a bit more competitive to us. I think by doing that, it raises the education level of consumers, and also puts better products on the shelves for everybody at the end of the day. But I guess what's coming down the pipeline for us is, we're staying in this zone of essential nutrition, right? Which is really a science first based approach, looking at, okay, what are the most common vitamins and minerals that are largely missing from Western diets, and how do we create convenient and delicious fuel sources to give somebody as much as possible that is equivalent to a whole food plant-based meal, but in a more convenient form. So we've got, we can do that right now. We do it in powders. We can do it in a bar format, which is coming down the pipeline pretty soon. We can do it in like a ready to drink. And then there's, continue to kind of extend beyond that into, other food solutions. Less on the supplement side. I think supplements are great when you need an additional boost, but we also do that through real whole foods. So we're doing a lot of stuff now in the adaptogen space, but that's more personalized. It's more targeted based off what's right for you. And that's really our philosophy at LYFE Fuel. Until health is truly personalized, we're so far away from where we need to be, right? Because there's no perfect diet, there's no perfect workout. It's really about what works for you at that point in time based off your goals, right? So when I was a professional athlete, I had, it was all about performance, right? I didn't care so much about longevity. Sure, it was in the back of my mind, but I would do everything to optimize for performance. Now, I have a different approach, right? The planet and longevity and overall, mobility and future health is more important than, running as fast as I can, let's say. So I think that's the important takeaway is, there's, depending on where you're at in life and what your goals are, is to really think about what fits right for me. And then getting back to the core principles of, where our food comes from and putting, more whole food, plant-based fuel sources in your body as opposed to synthetic and, junk food at the end of the day.
Yeah, learning that this stuff is coming from petroleum is really, I think, going to change even what I'm putting in my body.
Yeah,
it
makes you think twice. Yeah, no, it's I guess a blessing and curse, right? Because the more you learn about the space, the more it, I guess, limits your options as to what you, I guess, would, think twice about putting in your body. But I think with that also comes improved health outcomes, better performance, and everything else as a result. And, that's the biggest thing. If you really reduce your dependence on ultra processed foods that are more chemicals and franken foods than they are, real nutrients, then you're more empowered to get the results that you want just with that one little switch alone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of my last questions to you is, what's your favorite product?
So the Essential Shake is my favorite product. It's really the hero product. And so with that, I've continued to invest most of my time and attention to getting closer to the source. We want to get to a point where we're telling the stories of the farmers, the people really behind those raw materials. We spent the past, 2.5 years kind of traveling the world and getting closer to that. And so that we can really bring more transparency to what we're doing, really lead the way with this food-based holistic approach to wellness. And yeah, continue to kind of use the science as the backbone for everything that we're doing, but bring new exciting ways to make it fun and convenient for somebody to experience as a daily wellness habit.
Love it. And last two questions I asked everybody, Chris. First one is, if you were to summarize this episode into a couple sentences as a take-home message, what would it be?
I'd leave you with a question. What's fueling you?
I love that. What's fueling you? Going and having life fueled and hitting a great workout at Redefined Fitness. Anyway, last question. Where can people find you, get a hold of you, and how can they go ahead and purchase some?
Yeah, the best place is just directly through our website. It's lyfefuel.com. That's life with a Y, LYFEFUEL.com. Yeah, we've got, I think, new subscriber discounts and a bunch of like fun offers for new customers. So yeah, that's the best place to find us. We're also, I guess, on Instagram. You can check us out there at LYFE FUEL. But yeah, that's the best place.
Definitely a great episode. And thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is a journey, not a destination. Until next time. For us, we know what it's like to feel unhealthy, depressed, and downright defeated. We want to show others there is a right way, and through fitness, you could do anything you set your mind to. Fitness can give you that motivation, confidence, energy you need to bridge that mental gap and prevent you from missing important life events. We understand it's about feeling better, living longer, and being good examples for our kids. We understand this because we live it. And for us, that's the redefined difference.